Okay, this is the teleconference meeting of the Northfield Finance Committee for April 21st, and is also being audio recorded as well, I believe. Okay, the first item on the agenda is a little discussion of the talk that we had, some of us had. Okay. The moderator, Andrea, myself, and Dan as town clerk had a video conferencing talk 2 weeks ago today and talked about the possibility of changing the date of town meeting. And that involves the election and Dan's having the other things that go along with it. He's got timelines to follow, and the caucus as well. So it takes the select board a vote to set those dates, I believe, Andrea, am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
And but talking about having the town meeting, the suggestion is to have the town meeting on June 29th and the election on the 30th, and Dan will take care of his other dates in between that. Right, Dan? That's the way we've set it up.
There was the lawyer sent me some stuff today. I didn't have a chance to look it over, and it had specifically had to deal with the updates for town elections and I think town meeting. One of the things that they're forgiving for the federal elections is the number of signatures that are needed if you're going to do nomination papers. They cut it in half. Now, if that was the case, then it would, all I would need would be signatures of 10 to 12 citizens. And that might make it more durable if people want to go. But I haven't found that out yet. So I gotta check into that and see if it would be the same for local elections too. So,
Okay.
and that would really make it a little bit easier to postpone or even cancel the nonpartisan caucus and just go straightly with nomination papers.
Yes, okay. Well, I should mention too that postponing the town meeting and election has all been approved by the state. So you'll see that various towns are doing that, and that's the reason that we can do it. We're hoping to put it off and see what more information we'd have by that time. So,
one of the things that I would maybe have Andrea look into as far as doing that may give us a little bit of breathing room, would be to see if we could postpone on the ballot the question of, or not the question, well, just have on the ballot the question of going from 3 to 5. Now, what that would do is if we had to postpone the election until like June and people are now getting out and about, going on vacations and that, we could postpone it till next year for the election part. And I would have more interest in probably people running for 5 rather than 3. But I don't know if that can be done.
I think we'll have to look at the language. It may be that remember, it was a bill signed by the governor. If that
Correct.
language says, as I suspect, the next held annual election, I don't think we can suspend it or change it unless we go through
Legislation.
a bill
Another
before the
vote.
House. Everything has to be passed again.
Yeah, I don't think when this went out, they realized that the next day would be the next election. So that's.
I agree, Andrea. I think we're bound by the way the language was when it was written. And I don't think it could have been written differently, but it wasn't. So I think
it's almost always the same when they do that. When they mean the next annual election, they generally means that you're going to have pretty much a full year between them.
Correct.
Because you usually pass it at one town meeting and then you have to wait a full
But
year
ours
until
is-
you're right. So they're seeing this as already having waited a year.
Yeah.
You'd have to have a new bill probably put out to change it.
Okay. All
Well,
right.
I'll check into a little bit more of that. So we'll have more information hopefully on the elections within the next coming weeks. But
And
as
I'll
far
look
as,
at the language in the law.
yeah, and so let's get back to the town meeting as far as doing that.
Okay. Next, we need to talk about, as far as the finance committee, is the availability of funds. Now, any idea on free cash, Andrea?
I just received today from Deb a balance sheet with a whole bunch of notes and things I don't understand because I'm not a town accountant. She CC'd Melissa, myself, and Stacy. Stacy and I have a meeting Thursday morning at 10 o'clock because I have to go in on Thursday. So we will be meeting, I think, to discuss what is the last pieces of the work. The bulk of the work, basically reconciling it was as if we just reconstructed 2019, put everything in.
Okay.
There's still some pieces that need to be done to sort out some accounts, but I'm not sure those all have to be done to submit for free cash. Some of those may have to be done to roll things into 2020, fiscal year 20, but they may not need to be done to close out 19. That's what I have to run by Stacy because she's the accountant and I'm not.
Yes,
So I
okay.
need to know what she feels still needs to be done, if much. It sounded in the email I got from Deb that not a lot needed to be done to do the free cash certification. So more work, we needed to do a little bit more work to roll over funds into the 20 budget, but we need to get the free cash piece done. So I'm hopeful, and I will know on Thursday, I can shoot you out an update, that we won't need much more time to get that in. From everything I've asked, I think it'll get turned around very quick. Most people aren't doing free cash right now.
Yeah.
So I think they're well aware. And other than that, we know pretty much what all our other funds are. It's really just the free cash piece.
Yeah, you could give us the other figures then. You could send it out to us, the other.
Well, if you look on the stuff I've given you, the stabilization account is typed in.
Yeah,
I've already put that balance on there for you. And that's really the other big piece that's left. The only other thing to keep in mind is that we do have something called, if you were to look at, I know I sent you I don't think you guys have ever really actually seen that. Have you ever actually seen that Excel spreadsheet?
no, and whatever you sent, I couldn't copy it, only the first two columns. When the very last item that you sent had those same two columns that you had on something else, but it had dollar difference and percentage difference between.
Okay, well, if you
and it
open up
wouldn't
that
print more
spreadsheet,
than two
there's
columns.
tabs all along the bottom.
Yeah,
And it shows you the budget summary, the omnibus budget, the line item budget, the enterprise funds, a sheet of articles, the sources. It shows you actually everything you need to lay out the entire budget. And there's links. That's why you see these REFs. That means there's a link to somewhere else in the spreadsheets. I made a copy and sent one for you guys. I did not send you the original in case you wanted to play with it. And also there's some stuff attached to it even longer than this that I didn't think you guys wanted to see.
No, I'm not used to that, so I didn't know.
I understand, but I thought it might be interesting for you guys to see this. The cherry sheet is there, shows you how we got to that, shows you the calculation of the Proposition 2.5 levy limit on all those tabs.
Okay.
And in fact, the number 3 appendix you normally see is a yellow tab in there called the Sources of Funds chart. That will become Appendix 3 in your warrant. That's me creating it. That one I actually added in and turned into an Excel. She had it as a Word document. I said, why are these not linked? So that as we fill out the line item budget, it's feeding the other spreadsheets. So that I am not doing the same spreadsheet manually, which just leads to more and more error as I transmit, change numbers.
Did any of the rest of you open that stuff? I didn't.
It takes a while to understand it, and I'm sure you can field me any questions as you learn it. It took me a long time to learn it. I never learned it because it was something the accountant did, and I didn't understand it. I spent a lot of time, and the biggest problem was learning the budget summary because it's linked to other pages, and how she used the budget summary and what it means and what she meant by estimated receipt CPA, where was she getting that number? So I spent a lot of time. I don't expect you guys to all learn this, but I thought that maybe if you just saw kind of really what was fed in, really 20 and 21 are all the ones you're worried about. And the omnibus budget, which I'm hoping will now become, I'm assuming this is what she did in the past, but I think that the omnibus budget is actually Article this year's budget,
7.
7. That should be the omnibus budget tab. that you will
okay.
have. So you're looking, I didn't bother to put all those numbers yet into the draft I gave you because they could
Okay.
still change. And I didn't want to go back and have to retype. But if you look at the omnibus budget tab in that spreadsheet, that will be Article 7.
Okay. All
So
right.
I will just paste that in. I don't have to put all the other copies. I added the difference in percentage columns so you could see them. I will delete them before I put it in. I will, take them out and not put them in, but they were just for informational purposes. And because there is no line item budget by account line for your recommendations, which is the next tab, that's why you're seeing the REF under the G column, Finance Committee recommended, because that will be fed from the next spreadsheet where it says, well, Finance Committee recommended. Once I start typing those in for you, it will feed those into that column. And the REFs will go away and they will become that. And then those together added will go onto the budget summary page to the Finance Committee recommended budgets, and we'll start feeding those line items in. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's how these 3 pages are tied together. Those 3 are the most tied together. The others tend to feed like one line somewhere in the budget. They all have
Okay.
different purposes.
I'll have to work with it.
I know it'll take you guys time, but really I figured the omnibus budget is really the one you're working with if you want to see the line item budget. The reason that's there is because we're creating all the new accounts, which I also sent you in that 79-page document, page by page. If you looked at that. This is because Stacy and I decided it made a lot of sense to actually start budgeting into our new account numbers rather than to continue to use the old accounts. There were a couple of things I found during that process that she has to correct. I made notes. You'd see those on the copies you got. That'll all get corrected.
Okay.
That's
That
kind of
brings up
information.
one thing that I discovered. It looked like for town hall maintenance, there's one line that includes elevator maintenance and
Yes.
sewer,
Yes,
but it isn't all town hall
but
because
it's always been budgeted that way. It comes out of one account.
Yeah, but we have 2 elevators, I think is that's what she's getting at. We have the
I
library.
understand. But we
Yeah.
use the same account to pay for both of those services.
well,
We have
should
all
we-
this year.
Why should we call it town hall maintenance then?
It has to go, well, it has to go into the budget somewhere. That's all.
I know we've always put recently we put the 2 elevators together as far as maintenance.
Right, and so it just had to be in
But
somewhere, and I guess they put it in
isn't
that one.
Isn't the fire station on the sewer and isn't the library on the sewer line?
We only get one sewer. I don't know if they do their own bills. I don't recall paying the sewer bill for the fire station or the library.
We get just one bill from the
Well, for the
sewer?
town hall.
Okay,
So if they may be putting their sewer bill in on another line item in their expense budget. I don't think I get the bill, or at least I don't think I've approved a bill for sewer for the fire station or the library.
okay, all right. Okay.
But you're right on the elevators. That is combined into one account, but it
Yes,
already was.
yes, I know, that's right, right. Okay. We had some questions at one of our last meeting, I think, and I'm not sure this came up at the meeting, but I wrote once to you about
Yes,
a selectman cannot get 2 stipends.
yes, Alex has been informed.
I'm sorry.
Alex has been told that.
Okay, and he gets to choose, and I don't know what the selectman is probably
Selectman
higher.
makes more. He'll take that one. It's like 2,000 something over a $400
Okay.
one.
But I know we don't take it out of the budget for this next year because you never know.
Well, it's
when-
elected, I think, so you wouldn't.
No,
Yeah.
wouldn't want to do that. Okay. We never got another sewer budget. We had a lot of questions when he was in that time about the sewer budget.
Yeah.
And there was the question of whether they could set aside a fund to help some people that couldn't pay the bill. And
They're
I
not
don't think
doing
that's legal.
They're not
No.
doing it.
Okay, so we didn't get a corrected budget, but what you put in, you think is the final version?
I asked him, I specifically asked him if they wanted to change. The only thing I could imagine they would change would be the superintendent's salary. They have hired a new superintendent. I didn't look, the letter just went out, so I didn't calculate the salary, but he has
Okay.
not come back to me with any change in the salary request. I think that is the only line that would get changed. And I did ask him, I said, if you guys need to change that line item, you need to let me know. And he said, well, this time I don't think we're going to need to. And that was the last I heard.
Okay, and that's different from what his predecessor was receiving?
Yes.
Okay, so somewhere, is it in what you've given us that we can have that newer figure? Probably is.
You should
Well,
have
it's
it.
it should be in the enterprise fund.
Yes, the sewer budget for the, I have to figure out, sewer is 440, Department 440. And it says sewer, actually I have the spreadsheet in front of me. I should just look at the spreadsheet. Sewer regular wages was 68,000, it's now 60.
Okay, all right. So now, where I was missing, you and I corresponded earlier today, I was missing a couple of pages. I have printed out the latest version you sent of the warrant.
Yes.
So that should have I didn't check just now, but that should have those pages in it, shouldn't it?
Right, and just to bring everybody up to date, the earlier version had 2 Article 5s. One was, which I've kind of ignored, but I left the language in for a while, and that was to replenish the Finance Committee's reserve fund, which I don't think you're going to want to, at June 29th, I don't think it makes any difference anymore.
No, that's true.
So I have deleted that right now. But you would see an extra Article 5 because I just left it sort of hanging there as an appendage.
We had talked about that if there'd
Right.
been a earlier
Right,
special
but
town
everything
meeting.
else set up in here with the numbers, we'll leave that article. It's
Time
completely
coincides.
missing because it's just,
Yeah, I agree. Do the rest of you agree on that?
Yeah.
We're down to 8,000, I think it is.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, all right.
and then it should have Articles 8 and 9 should have the enterprise fund budgets in them, but that's until you approve them. But if you actually look at the master spreadsheet I sent you, it's the same thing. The sewer enterprise fund and the EMS enterprise fund are those exact tables that are in the warrant.
Okay,
They're
that's
green.
what,
It says sewer, and those tabs are essentially that. And then they feed into the,
there were no more
budget.
changes to the EMT budget,
to sewer or EMS.
EMS, I'm sorry.
Not that I'm aware of, that I only have the budget that was given you.
Yes, okay, all right. Let's see.
FYI, the fire station does do its own water. They have $500 in there for that.
So I assume they must do their own sewer too.
Yeah.
Because I don't see the bills. Now, the other questions you have, I wrote out some answers in case you were questioning. The selectmen's salaries, well, that changes because it's from 3 to 5. So
Yes, I know
budgeted
that.
For 5.
Yeah,
The Finance Committee expense you questioned, there's a change of $1 because I rounded from 24 to 25, but there's no other change in that account. So
okay.
wasn't sure
I
what
didn't know
you
whether
meant.
it was a typo or what. It just,
I think it was a typo last year to go 24. I mean, who would budget $24? I just assumed it was 25.
okay, all right, that's all
The
right.
computer supplies, you're right, that there was originally a $71,100 request. It is 73 now, and the reason is because usually we estimate, and now we've actually have had the time to actually get our assessments. Our assessments for VEDA, all the different programs we use are in there, including, now that we've added, part of it is we're adding all these select board members, and also we're updating all the computers, which means we are officially adding emails for town staff and departments as we upgrade their computers. So they are getting town emails, which is a monthly charge, but we have to do it. We have to archive these emails. People have all these Gmail accounts,
Yeah,
which are unofficial, and we're running them in EMS and fire. We can't do that. They need to have town accounts, and they have Windows 365 subscriptions for their software. So we stop being 3, 4, 5 years out of date. They will constantly be up to date because they will now have permanent protection. Most of them did not have hardly any protection because they were so out of date. They were all on Windows 7 until we started doing this. We're still working with EMS. They're not done yet. So the cost of doing this is the cost of doing this.
so that was the computer supplies and services.
That's where the main part of that budget is going up, is because we're adding in enough cost to run Windows 365 and to pay for monthly charges for all of these people to have actual town emails that we archive officially.
Okay.
And it's a monthly charge per person. We pay per person. But we just have to do it. We have to be more formal. We have to be more careful.
Yes, yeah.
We've been too lax. And
I'll
just
have to go back
informal.
and look at the request sheets.
But other than
find
that,
this.
that was the one line item had a change in it that brought it.
Okay.
You had
Concom
Concom
expense,
went down because we took the clerk out.
yeah. I think I thought there was some other difference in it.
I don't think so.
It was
We
just,
never got a written request from them, so I think we just level
That's right.
funded it,
that's
except for the board's clerk.
except for the second, okay.
The police salaries, there's a $32 difference because there's a line item in there that says something about a union $32 expense. They had
Yeah.
separated out. I don't know what it was, so I just rolled it into next year's request. I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
think it needed to be its own line item, but if we look at the request he had in, and then there's that $32. The other ones are all breakout, are individual.
Yes, yeah.
So it's really that 310 plus $32 that got to slight difference with the number that you're seeing.
Okay, and the other difference, maybe that's the 310 you're talking about, was because he had the radio, the new system, he had an increase. Was it the COG radio? No, it's the
That's an
COG
assessment.
maintenance. Maintenance
The
of
COG
that.
assessment went up for both police and EMS. That's an assessment from the COG. It always changes.
But now the fire station and EMS had it already included in their budget. He
Right.
had, the chief of police had a specific figure which was changed. Later it came through as being more money, and he sent us a memo saying he wanted an increase for that.
Right. Last year's budget was 3,955. This year's budget is 4,472.
Okay, has that now been increased? Because what I looked at did not have that increase in it.
Okay. This is all, if you look at the third tab that says line item budget by account, it will show you 2 years ago, 19, 20 is this year's budget, and 20, so it's G, I, and K, but G is 2019, I is this year's budget, and K is the requests that I have currently. So you can see all three in a row.
So, but does that have that increase that he asked
Yes.
for?
Yes, it does.
Okay, see what, now I was looking at the sheet that you gave us, you sent us, and it didn't have the right amount.
Okay, let me look, because it's very possible that we have it different. Let me just see. I was trying between 3 different spreadsheets for a while. I'm trying to get it
Yeah,
uniformly onto one. Okay, police department is 210. FERCog radio, 4472. No, it's there. It's on page 29 of the 77.
I've got just this one here that is, so you think, anyway, you think that you've got the higher figure included in it?
It's on
now.
both. It's on the sheet. If you have this big thing that I sent you that has the 72 pages by account, page
That's-
29 has the police department, and it says police FERCog radio last year was 3955 and this year is 4472.
Yep.
Okay, so that should, maybe that's different from what I have on this sheet here. then. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what that sheet is, but it's possible the old paperwork didn't have it. I don't recall. I'm trying to get everything to the last
Okay.
numbers we had.
So really, some of that should have come from the packet of list of all the accounts then, rather than what I was using here.
Are you talking about the one I sent
This is.
or a previous
this is-
one?
This is what I used and matched up to the request that we had.
You'll have to hold it up. I don't know what paperwork you're referring to.
Here's this.
One thing on the policing I just noticed as far as doing that, where you had the cruiser and you had name, you have FY, it's Article 14.
That's last year's cruiser. Yeah. She
Okay.
created an account for it, so it showed up. I didn't want to put all the articles in the
Okay.
omnibus. So
No.
although it reflects the articles from last year because she created accounts for those, what I'm working off is just the omnibus. So
Okay.
it's not included in the total.
Yeah.
That's why I modified them, because I wanted you to see omnibus versus omnibus, not articles. But she had to create an account for that article. So it exists. We're just working, this is the first time we've been able to get this kind of report off of Vadar. Hopefully
Yeah.
next year we'll get one that is actually for filling out for the budget. But this is the first one we could find quick enough to, this is really supposed to be an expenditure account, but she was able to put blanks in there, so I could just put the budget in. So you could see what by new account. Next year, we should have something hopefully that mirrors similar to what you're used to seeing with the, requested budget and all the expenditures.
Okay.
We're just learning. Vadar's new.
Okay.
We're all getting it down.
All right. Some like the fire department one, I think that looked like an error in addition.
It looks to me like that I had 6,000 instead of which was the old amount, instead of 7,000 fire department other purchase services. So that's just been corrected. The 6,000 was carried instead of the new request for 7. It's been fixed.
Okay. All right. Another one was,
Board of Health.
yes, Board of Health. What happened there?
I sent you a new page. Did you get the new page? Yeah, there were a couple accounts that got messed up. This is what happens when you do this at 11:30 at night, just so you all know.
Oh, yeah. I was almost that late.
I know. I spent like 3 12-hour days on all of this, trying to get these spreadsheets to meet. My husband will tell you it was kind of pretty crazy. I had the health agent number in wrong. I had a different one, and we had the assessment letter, and so I got the assessment letter number in.
That's
And
a
then-
contract with that shared
That's the
health agent.
Correct. So that's an
And that's a
assessment.
And
that's
I think it's higher. He had asked for more for this year, which was all
2%
right.
pay up.
So it's 12,432.
Correct. And then
Okay.
the office supplies, he wanted to go from 3 to 5. And
Yeah.
then I had the two numbers backwards. And so one said 750 and one said 300, when actually it should have been 5 and 700. So they're fixed. But it should
Okay.
all be right now.
Okay. Now, the Board of Health expense, though, there was quite a large difference between last year and this year. And I wasn't sure I didn't think that secretary was going to come out of their account. So
The
it
Board
went
of
from
Health,
6,000 something down quite a bit
yeah,
less.
because Phil put all of it together in one line item, the stipends and the secretary. They never should have been. They're two different line items. So they were split back out to be
Yeah.
2,768 and 32,696. There was never a $6,000 line item. He put it in wrong.
Okay. So you've got it broken out now, so the two.
Correctly, yes. They should be
it's-
two separate line items.
Okay, now will that show up in that list of accounts that you?
Yes, if you're
It
looking
didn't
at the
show
line
up in-
item budget by account, if you look in the 510s, B is the column. When I refer to the department number, B is the 01 is the fund. That's your general fund. Unless it's one of the like EMS or sewer, then it's going to be an enterprise fund, and that becomes like a 62 or
Right.
63.
Right.
Department number is actually the department number in municipal accounting. So in every state, in every town in the state, Board of Health is a 510 account. And then the
Yes,
expenditure accounts begin with a 5,000.
Okay.
So that's how this is broken out. So
Okay,
yes.
so evidently if I had used that, I would get that later version then.
So the Board of Health now, their budget is actually, let me get to 510. It's like $300 or $400 different than last year.
Okay,
200 of which comes from the health agent. And then I think he asked for a $200 increase in the office supplies.
yeah,
And I
okay,
think that's pretty much it.
sounds right.
Okay.
So yeah, it's 23,946 and it used to be 23,544.
Okay, all right, I'll match that up and see
Yeah,
how
so
that
that
goes.
should be your change. I did when I sent you, I left the little sticky notes. You'll see little yellow pieces on the piece if you print it in color. On the budget spreadsheets that said like biannual each total. I broke down how often they get paid if they're a department, a stipend, and what each person actually makes, because there used to be just a lump sum in there, and I didn't know what any of it was. So I went to the treasurer and I said, okay, how much does the chair make? How much does the member make? And I got it sorted out. And that's
Yes.
what my sticky note, it's my cheat note on there. So I just left it so you could see how we get to that total.
Oh, you see, that'll be in what I print out when I print out those tabs and so forth.
But that allows you to, yeah, that's the 79-page document that I sent you.
Yeah.
My little sticky notes and all the notes on there.
Oh, I
you'll
see. Okay. All right.
I left them in it, and the scanner, fortunately, I was worried they would come off because they were sticky notes, but the scanner didn't take them off. So,
Okay.
like you'll see right here where the select board is.
Yeah.
As I just ripped the page, I have a yellow sticky note that breaks down how much everybody makes.
Oh, yeah. I saw that. Yeah.
And those are on there for each department that has a chair, like a stipend like that. So you could
Okay.
see how it actually became that number by
Okay.
person.
I'll have to go back over that then.
Yeah.
Let's see. That was, oh, how about that COG figure? There was an assessment, or did you address that here?
The FERCog is an assessment.
Okay, those 3 items that we participate in, I think it's bidding probably on, for highway things.
That's in the highway budget.
Okay,
Highway budget pays that.
so we don't have to add that to the assessment for the COG.
Not the general large assessment. That
Okay, that's all right then, I didn't know about it.
has a FERCog, highways in the 400s. Go back up. No, Kitty. I have a cat who's now invading.
Okay,
He actually has, not the highway superintendent, not the highway. He has line 421.
They bill us on an ad-use basis for bidding.
He has $3,500 in there for the FERCog bid program. That's to do, they bid the diesel fuel, they bid all our supplies for summer work, like culverts and gravel. We participate in those countywide bids, and there's assessment for each bid we participate in. And he has a line item for $3,500. It's 421.5630. That's the highway superintendent account for $3,500 for the FERCog. And that's here.
okay,
The rest of the FERCog assessment comes to that other line item, which is the regional services assessment, which is $26,388 this year. The statutory assessment of $1,445, which is our total $27,833. But we also participate in I think the regional planning one, which is in a separate line item under emergency management services of $150.
Okay. All right.
So that's our assessment from the FERCog.
On this $40,000 for out-of-district tuition, we still have a student like that?
Yes, we do. And I think on one of my sticky notes, I gave you a breakdown. So on the sticky note, page 44, if you're going by this book, it says 180 days at $90 a day. These are this year's prices. Now, we're not going to spend it all because we're not transporting right now, so I don't get a bill. But initially, the estimate was $90 a day for $16,200. And tuition last year, I don't have this year's tuition number, was $17,965. And I have a note that says need fiscal 20. So that was almost $35,000 right there. And I don't know what the cost of transportation will be next year, and I don't know what the tuition will be next year. So I left it at 40.
Is this to go to Northampton? Is
Yes.
that what? Yeah.
One
Yes.
student goes to Smith Vocational.
There's a bill that came in today, so you want to check that.
I will check it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But, yeah, so we only have one student. We've only been notified of one student. Another one could show up. They have until sometime in May
yeah.
to actually apply. But
Yeah.
as of this point in time, I've only still got that one student.
I knew we had one a few years ago, but she
Your
graduated.
sister.
Yeah,
And
the
Okay.
sister of this kid, yeah. Well, we
Yeah.
have one going now.
okay, all right. Let's see. We talked about Dan's salary increase, and I thought because he's an elected official, the last one we have, that it should go as an article. But you're saying that others don't do it that way.
You have to have an article like you do to vote elected salaries. But if you delineate the salaries out, you don't have to have a separate article for either an increase or their salary. It just has to be printed in the budget, and you have to have an article that votes the elected salaries. So they can still open it up at town meeting and talk about it because it's a line item, but you don't have to have an article just to increase that, not a separate article, just to
Okay.
increase that salary.
Okay, it would be in the
I-
omnibus.
I sent it out on my listserv and I got about 15 responses and everybody said, nope, we put the whole number in our budget, even when we get increases, as long as we delineate the number and as long as they vote an elected salary.
Okay,
So nobody else seemed to think you needed an article for it.
okay. Now, the chief of police called me last week and is concerned because the last cruiser that he ordered took 11 months before it was delivered. And so his thinking was, and I agree with his thinking, but I'm not sure we can do it. If we were going to have some money appropriated at this end of June town meeting, he wanted to get in on that to get his order in. It wouldn't be that we'd be spending it that soon or anything like that. But I'm not sure we're going to be doing, what money we'll have. Well, you've told us we're going to look up what's available. And then if you do it for that emergency service, what about the other two emergency services? They both got requests in for items. EMS has a replacement piece of equipment, I think. I can't remember what it was. And the fire department, the Jaws of Life, wasn't there some mechanical parts that they needed for that? So,
Well, if town meeting is June 29th, isn't there just a 2-day difference?
Correct.
July 1, they can order whatever they want, no matter where the money comes from.
yeah, that's a good point.
So I can't understand what he's thinking. He wants to order it before?
He was thinking if we were having an early town meeting, even though we were going to put off some of the articles,
I see what he's thinking.
he was hoping that his would come up earlier
He-
in the earlier meeting.
Yeah, he's
But-
thinking that if we put it off until like July or something like that, or later on, or if there's 1/12 of it, nobody would be able to order anything anyway.
No,
So,
and
so that's one of the things that we need to discuss, so that if we don't have our town meeting on the 29th, that we have to do 1/12 of the budget, then nothing on the capital things can actually be done.
right,
And I think this is to explain to people that the conversation Lois, myself, and Dan had with Nathan about holding town meeting and whether or not there should be sort of 2 town meetings, whether you wanted to have the one in the end of June to sort of do all the critical, non-emergency, non-controversial potential articles so that you could hold a short meeting and maybe even do a bunch of consent articles, thereby shortening the meeting so people didn't feel like they had to come all to one space. Although we have now been talking about where to have the meeting and maybe doing it outside. It will be June 29th, instead of trying to do it in a confined space. And that's something that you guys have to talk about. We've talked about, and I know that we have another one. I'll be sending out a meeting for us with our moderator for Thursday morning to finish that discussion. But the more I think about it, the more I'm wondering if that's really a wise idea, only because what could happen between June 29th and the time you plan to have that meeting could be anything. It could be a resurgence in the fall. It could be you don't get to have it before the weather gets cold and now you have to have it inside and people don't want to go inside. There's a million things that could happen that could actually have made that decision backfire. And I don't know the right or wrong answer for that, but I'm not sure it's the obvious choice. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. I think you're right. I'm concerned about it. So are you thinking that we don't do much at all at this end of June one? Put it all off? Put more of it off?
No, I'm thinking
try
you
to have
have
it all
town
at once.
meeting.
We should have it, you're
Yeah,
saying?
I really think that that's probably going to be the end. I mean, we've got until later in June to make that decision. So I don't know you have to make that decision today. You could wait and see where things are at. If things are a lot quieter and you find a place to do this outside, it might just make sense to hold the whole thing. If
I
things
may,
are
I may have
crazy,
something for that, an outside venue as far as doing that, that might be acceptable. It would be like 60 by 100-foot tent. The golf course is putting up a huge tent this summer, and it's outside. So I know the people pretty well. If we needed to do that, that's bigger than using the pavilion. It's undercover if we needed it for rain. So
that might be great.
if it get, and I know that it's going up in the next couple of weeks. So I know the owners. I know that they would probably help us out in that way.
See if it's available
If
that
we
day.
needed to do that. If we needed to do that.
And if there's enough parking. It just
Yeah,
it
yeah.
just might make sense. I think you've got some time to figure that out. You don't have to make the decision tonight.
Warrant has to be posted 2 weeks because we'll take up
Right.
some
So we've got another
items.
6 weeks at least to the beginning of June.
Yes.
before you have
2
to-
weeks, or did they lessen that to 1 week? I got to see. I know the election is posted 1 week before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
I'm not sure. but
1
it's
week
two
for
at
the
moment.
annual, except that if we're going to take up some, oh, maybe we aren't at that.
This
time
is our
of-
annual we're doing.
Right.
Yeah,
And the other thing to keep in mind, although we don't have free cash, I haven't put it in anywhere under the sources of funds chart, but you do have a column that says, go to that chart for a minute, and it says other, I'm moving between two screens here, so my cursor's a little strange.
okay.
It says other available funds. Keep in mind that you have $472,221 in cell tower revenue.
Ooh.
It is in its own account, and it is an other available fund for use. It has some restrictions. For example, you're supposed to use it for capital or purchases that you could borrow for. There's your police cruiser.
We have that money available. It will be
Yes.
available to us.
It's already available.
472,000
Yes. And so
something.
you could put some of it in use that to fund your stabilization. You could use that because those for capital. Stabilization is a capital account.
Yeah,
You could buy the police cruiser with it because you would borrow for that piece of equipment, and it's a capital piece of equipment. You could probably even purchase the cardiac monitor from EMS because that is another item that they fund should you use it as a free cash item. But that's coming out of their enterprise, so it doesn't matter.
well, weren't they going to fund that out of their own enterprise
Yes,
fund?
they were. So that's not, but I'm just saying there may be some other articles in there that you can use it for, like the Pioneer Valley capital request, the PVRS request.
Yes.
You can fund some of that out of there, depending on what comes back with free cash. Just so you keep in mind that
Yeah,
funding is
yeah.
available.
That's good to know. I didn't
It is
realize
another revenue source that you have.
that. Okay, I'm still hoping to avoid any use of stabilization. Once we got it there, I hate to take anything out of it.
No, I think you should
Well,
use
I
this to help
it's not like we'd have to
put some of
if
it
we
in your
had money.
stabilization.
In fact, we probably end up using some of that into stabilization. So.
Yeah, you could move some of it into your stabilization. And
Yes.
it's on that chart. If you look on the sources, the FYATM articles tab on that one I sent you, I stuck that in and I threw the 150 for the school and the 56 for the police cruiser in it as an idea to show you what that means.
Okay,
So it
okay,
is in that chart. And I put the stabilization amount on the top, the cell tower revenue on the top, and as soon as we get the free cash is certified, I will put them in that chart as well so that you will have all those balances. And then you
okay.
can look at what you want to fund out of them.
That was for the sale of the cell tower to the,
For the cell tower easement,
yes, okay,
yes.
all right, that's good.
And there is a law about the sale and disposal of real estate, and that's where we, tells us our restrictions on what we can use the funding for.
Okay. Let's see.
But it is an available revenue source, and I did put it in. All the stuff that I've done is really just for you to play with. It's just examples to show you. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, it's
Well, I'll
up
have
to you
to
guys
look at
to decide
that
how you want to fund things.
document and so forth then. Okay, well now, we're down to the fact that the Finance Committee, we had not gotten to the point where we had discussed any of the budget requests, or of course, then that would have been followed by the articles with their requests. So there are some budgets that had increases in their requests. And so the Finance Committee really needs to talk about whether we're going to support those or not. And we never do just take blanket and say, yeah, everything is fine. We talk about any one that had an increase. So we need to talk about when we want to do that and how we're going to get through that. Now, when we talk, Andrea, when we talk with Nathan this week, Dan and Nathan, we'll be talking about finalizing the date for town meeting. Is that what you expect?
Well, yeah, I think the 29th is, we're probably right there. I would say that would be what I would recommend anyway for the town meeting.
Yeah.
Try to get it before July if we can do that.
And we have to get it in before July 1st.
Well, yeah, if otherwise
So you go for 1/12 budget, but you're right, you can't do anything capital-wise
exactly.
until you have a town meeting. I mean, you can go over July 1st right now, but it goes to capital. It goes
Yes,
to 1/12.
the operating
What you
budget
spent last year. Right.
needs to
The
be
average
done.
of what you spent, and it's based on last year's budget.
Yeah.
The 1/12.
The 112. But if we can, we might go through the budget requests and see where the changes were and decide what we want to, about recommending them.
And the last things to keep in mind, I should mention this is, I do have a bill from Deb. We have our final bills from Deb. So we have some money to deal with there. I just got the expenditure reports from Erin today. I'm going to go through those, see what kind of money we actually have, what the accountant line item looks like, and whether we'll need money for that. That might be something small enough that we can do that I'm hoping an internal transfer or the last of some of your reserve funds that we don't have to go to town meeting for that potentially.
Right.
And just to give you an update on what's going on with COVID-19 expenditures, because we do have two things there. I meet every week with police, highway, fire, police, EMS, fire, and Board of Health.
Yeah.
So between Bob, Rob, Skip, and who am I missing there? Mark.
Yes.
We meet every Tuesday. We just met this morning to talk about the state of everything and where they're at and their expenditures. We do have a COVID account for charges for COVID. Much of the PPE they get is actually through MEMA. I don't think there's any charge for that, so they haven't run up those expenditures. They do have some personnel expenditures. EMS has had some extra coverage. I have to talk to Mark about easing that down a little. I think he's covered more than we need now that we kind of know that we don't need it so much. And he's tracking that. And we had to have some additional police coverage because one of our full-time officers was quarantined because he had potential exposure. So his shifts had to be covered while he was in quarantine, but he's out, he's fine.
Good.
And so we're okay with that. Now, I have them tracking all of that, plus any expenditures, including this sterilization thing for rooms and trucks and vehicles that we're going to purchase. There's two revenue sources to cover these expenditures. One is FEMA, and this is a declared FEMA emergency, so there will be some thing we can file with FEMA. And then there's something called the CARES Act. That was a federal declaration of money that they gave to states. State of Massachusetts got, I don't know, $5 billion or something. And any town over 500,000 people could file directly to get their share of it. That was only Boston. Everybody else was under that. So the state then, we're a sub-recipient of the state. The state divvied it all out based on who knows whatever. And we've already received $4,691.90 in a deposit as the CARES Act. Done. It's given to us. We don't have to show we expended it. We don't have to show anything for it. As far as I know, it's done. However, having said that, we don't quite know the intersection between FEMA and the CARES Act. So we're still collecting all this stuff and still collecting our expenditures. And there's still going to be at least I think, a filing for FEMA for our eligible expenses. And I will put everything on that I can. What they deny or the 25% that they don't cover. I'm hoping that the CARES Act can be that money. We don't know
Okay.
yet because the federal government hasn't issued the guidance. The whole state's waiting for the guidance to see if we can use that as our 25% match for FEMA.
Oh, okay.
So we're
Well,
trying to make as much as what we do expenditure neutral going
Yeah,
forward
yeah.
as we can.
We hope FEMA isn't going to say, well, you've already got this amount. We'll deduct
Right, you
that
can't
from
use
what-"
this state grant to match your federal grant. We don't know that yet, but we're not. I'm going to talk to EMS, but he's an enterprise fund. And I just don't want that to come back to bite everybody because it still
Yes.
goes on the residents.
Yeah.
Talk to him about his expenditures for personnel. But other than that, the other thing to remember, if there is, for some strange reason, we're only in April still, some large expenditures we want to cover, the law is now 3 years to amortize that. We don't have to plunk it on next year's tax
I
rate.
see.
We can
Okay.
spread it over up to 3 years.
Okay. That's any excess over what is reimbursed.
Correct. If we find out that we have to raise $10,000 because we just can't cover it anywhere else and it's an expenditure, we have
Okay.
3 years to add that to the tax rate.
Okay.
So it doesn't
Okay,
get hit all
getting
over.
back to the budget though, as far as doing that and making any recommendations as far as doing on the budget, are there certain departments that we want to look more critically at and concentrate on those, and some of the smaller ones we've actually had some input when they were in our came into us and presented it to us, and just agree that those would be there's not a problem with those, but just look at the ones that we are concerned with that might be the bigger budgets, enterprise funds, basically the sewer, the transfer station, that sort of thing.
I mean, we don't need to spend any time on those that are level funded, certainly.
Correct.
I don't think there'd be any question on those. I think there was a couple of substantial items in the highway budget.
So, I mean, we can talk about those. We can talk
Petroleum
about those
increase.
right now, or do you want to just make another next week and go over those?
Yes.
Since we have a chance to look at more information, to get more information in.
I think that's a good point, Dan, yes.
Okay.
How do the rest of you feel that after we look over some of this more, I need to look more into some of this information that we've got, and then I could probably list out the accounts. I did start somewhere to list out the accounts that have increases, substantial increases, and those are be the ones we'd spend some time talking about at a meeting next week. How would that be?
That would be fine as far as doing that. Now, the only thing that I can see that if we have some questions, how do we want to loop in those people and say, okay, we have some concerns with, your budget. Explain it to us again. We'll have to loop those people in, or do we just go with our own thoughts?
Well, I took some notes as to why there were increases when they came to us with their budget request. Why don't I look at it and see if there's any that we might need to talk to again?
Just keep
Okay,
in mind
and-
one thing. We did add 10,000 to highway. You'll see my note on that for the bounds and survey. That is totally optional on you, but I threw it in there so you could see it. Remember, he said a lot of the roads he can't pave because he doesn't have the survey. So the idea was to maybe put in a line of, turns out there was an old line item. It just hasn't been funded in a long time. It actually existed several years ago. So I put money in it. Just wanted to let you know that I did that after the discussion, but it's clearly up to you to decide. I wanted to point it out because it's written in there as an additional potential line item. So I want you to know that that's one.
And that wasn't the boundaries, was it? Checking out
Yes.
the town boundaries?
That's
Does it have to
checking.
be
No,
walked
this is boundaries and surveys. This is for roads.
This
Oh,
is
okay.
the
For
width
roads
of
and
the
highway.
road, wasn't it?
It's right. So he can start to do bounds and surveys on some roads where he feels he can't do road work because he doesn't know whether he's in the town right of way.
Jack, you have any comment on that?
Well, it's a necessary expense, so I think it should be included there.
Okay, we'll go with your experience here. That's easy.
So it's there for your discussion when you talk about
Yeah.
Yes,
additional things. So I just wanted you to know that I put it in because you talked about it and I didn't want to lose it as a concept. You can
Okay.
decide whether you want to fund it this year or not, but
But
okay,
it's
The
in the
other thing
budget
is
you
if-
gave us, right?
it's in the budget you've got. It's in these 79 pages goes account by account by
okay,
account.
that's
And this,
what I've got to go
Yeah.
to rather
and
than
this
what I did
ties
use.
to the
Yeah,
purple
that's
one
right.
that says line item by account
Yes,
on the spreadsheets. So
that's
this
right.
ties to that. There are some additional notes in the other one, which you can look at. Mostly they're just tracking notes. So the articles are in there, and I just made article not numbers. I highlighted in yellow where it really doesn't tie to this. Or we need
Okay.
to add the account.
those
I
are
said,
kind of
here,
things we'll
add an
look at.
account. I made it yellow in there to remember to do that. And if you're going to do that next week, just know that Tom is on vacation next week. So if you wanted to talk to Tom about his budget, he's not available.
So
Yeah.
if we have some questions, could we, kind of run them through you and say, hey, Tom, we need some clarifications. What's this all about? And then we'll just, you can just, if you wanted to do it that way, or do you
I
want
would
to
wait a week for Tom just because he's on vacation.
I don't think we need Tom. Tom was
No.
pretty specific about his increases.
I mean, the two big increases you have are Tom and Board of Health. You know
Yeah.
what both of those are
Yeah,
involved in.
and that the increase was because of the transfer stations, and we all know that was coming down the road anyway.
Those are the big ones.
Yeah, the hauling and so on. That brings up that point about the water that he wanted up, Bob wanted up at the transfer station.
Yeah, then you need to discuss all your articles. Those are different, yeah.
Yes. Did you get information though as to whether they could run a line up from the highway garage or not?
I have to say, I honestly don't have an answer to that. They would have to lay a whole new line. I didn't ask them to price that. It's
Okay.
something we could ask Tom.
Okay,
Um,
that would be,
Well, there's a little bit of construction going on up there, so I don't know if that's what he's doing. He's doing a lot more clearing up there between.
They've been trying to clear the mess out between the two.
So if
Once
you're
he's
doing
done
that, you want to line up, maybe they
Oh.
could do that.
oh,
I can certainly make a note to ask him, not this week.
no,
I'll ask him the end of this week in the hopes that he'll return the answer next week. He's out this week, so I should say that. So you actually could
Yeah.
meet with him next week. I take that
Okay.
back. He's out this
Okay.
week.
I just as soon avoid bringing in people like that if we can avoid it. I'd like to,
But I will
just-
ask him.
I think, we're not that far off as far as doing it. I think one of the things we're going to do, we'll get that squared away, and then we'll start looking at the articles. So I think we'll probably meet the next 2 to 3 weeks. This way works fine. And we'll be all set for the 29th.
Well, how much time is Sandra needing for town reports and stuff like that? We've got to get some of this in for her to use. That's another,
Well, she likes a month, so that gives us until the end of May if you want to, if that's the case. So if we can have everything maybe wrapped up by the middle of May, that would work fine.
Yeah,
that
you've easily got a month or
Yeah.
till the end of May.
okay. That brings up something else. I think there was a $6 increase in the budget for town reports. Has there been, in what I saw anyway now, has there been, I think she goes to Staples now for the printing and not the jail. Am I
Right, and I don't have it typed in here, but we were actually over budget on that last year. It is more expensive.
Oh, okay.
That's why we upped it.
Yeah, okay. That's okay.
I can get you that number though. I actually have it.
I think she plans on about 200 for the town meeting, and it's worked out. We've been taking some of them back, so. Ernie, what are you doing?
Uh,
Just
I'm listening, don't worry.
making sure. I was hoping your eyes weren't closing or
No,
whatever.
no, no. I have a iPad in front of me with the budget in front of me. So I can click
Oh.
back and forth and I got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a monitor here in front of me so I'm going back and forth too.
well, let's see. I think it was on the flip side of one of these. but
Yeah. Well,
Is it?
I did this.
Town reports went from 600 to 1,000.
Yeah, where is which number is it? Is it 160? Is it one of the 160s?
I'm using the one that doesn't have the numbers.
Oh, let me find it. I'll find it. Town reports it's not in the,
It could well be the increase, though.
I think we were almost 800 last year. It was 700 and something.
Okay, all right.
It was like
This is-
790 or something, and I'm trying to just, I can't remember what report it's in. It's not in one that
195.
oh, it's 195? Okay. I knew it wasn't in the town hall. There it is. Yeah, it's, and I can tell you what it
How do the rest of you feel about setting up the meeting the same way soon to talk about the budget items? And probably
Works out
another
fine.
time to talk about the articles.
I have no problem with this. I think this is very, this Zoom meeting is working out very well, and we could easily schedule another meeting. And if you want, next week or the week after is.
last year's expenditure was 799.
Okay, thank you.
$800, okay.
So it justifies an increase, and I'd say. What about the rest of you? Do you think we could have a meeting, and when should we have it?
I think it works fine. Any time is fine with me.
Okay,
I would agree that any time is fine with me also.
okay,
Same here.
I'm good for any time.
all right.
This way, you know, basically it's easier.
Yeah, you want to do it as soon as next week, or there isn't quite the rush now, is that we've got the time, and I was afraid about publishing it, but excuse me, from what you're saying, Dan and Andrea, that isn't an issue right now.
No, we're shooting for the 29th of June.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
what
that's
What
very
about
doable.
if we give ourselves 2 weeks here and try to do the budget and money articles? And if we don't finish the money articles, we're not going to stay till midnight. We'll have a second meeting. But how about that in 2 weeks?
But going one next week and the following week, just go to next 2 weeks?
2 weeks from, let's see, today is the.
Maybe the May 5th is 2 weeks.
May 5th.
Oh, you want to have our next meeting May 5th, or?
Yeah. How does that work for people? May 5th.
Fine. It's
Good.
fine.
Fine.
Okay.
It's
Fine.
fine.
All right. Let's do that.
I can do a couple things. One is I'm going to try and see if I can get into this spreadsheet, fiscal 19's. It's when I say the spreadsheet, the line item budget by account, that purple tab.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if I can add and resend to you what they call the last year actual. I'm going to change those tabs. It should be fiscal 19, fiscal 20, and next year requested, because the last year and previous year, I find that very
You gonna put
confusing.
it on this form?
Yes, and I would like to add at least last year actuals, so you can see what fiscal 19 was. Now that we've done fiscal
Okay.
19, hopefully most of those accounts are in pretty good shape. Can't
Yep.
vouch, there could still be a little bit of problems, but now that we have that, if you give me the 2 weeks, I might be able to actually get some numbers in that column for
Okay.
you.
Okay.
And then I'll send it back out to you. And in the meantime, anybody who has any questions, if you just email me, I'll try to walk you through it so that you guys can learn a little bit about these spreadsheets. I think it's helpful that you're
Yeah.
seeing the data.
I've got to go and use that rather than what I used, and
Well,
that'll-
it's manipulable and it's easy to do. I mean,
okay.
it's what your accountant was doing during the meeting, but I think you guys should be part of it,
Okay, sounds
if
good
that
to
works
me.
for you.
Yes. Let's see what else we had.
So do you want to approve the minutes?
Yes, let's do the minutes. Okay, we'll say that the next meeting will be on May 5th, 6 o'clock teleconferencing. That gives me a little time to get the agenda out too. It won't be that long, instead of doing it tomorrow or something. Everybody's okay with that?
Fine.
Sounds good.
And
Yep.
how about, we've got 3 sets of minutes to approve. We didn't have a quorum, I think, by the time we were finishing up. So we've got February 25th, and then we had the 2 nights in a row, March 10th and 11th. Anybody want to Make
I
a
make a
motion.
motion that we approve all 3 minutes, February 25th, March 10th, March 11th, for the Finance Committee minutes.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay. I think you have to do a roll call vote when
Okay,
you're on
yeah.
teleconferencing like
Dan
this.
Campbell presented the motion. Bernie,
Parada seconded the motion.
The rest, Sue?
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Okay.
Aye.
All right.
okay,
Tony?
Dan Campbell's in favor.
Okay.
Bernie Parada is in favor.
Tony Mateo in favor.
Jack Spanbauer abstains. I wasn't there the 10th or the 11th, so
Okay.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay, you're okay on the February 1?
Yes.
All right. And I'm in favor of them. So those are approved, and I will, Beth was going to leave I have the first one, and I can sign it, but Beth's going to leave the other 2 in the mailbox up there. We can't get there.
So, are you going to come by to put them there, or? I'll be around anyway. I'm there till noon, and then Sandra's there from noon to.
See, I'd have to sign them.
Yep.
I don't know, Andrea, is it legal? Can he sign for me? He's the vice chairman. Also
I
custodian.
don't think there's a
of-
problem
Find a
with
minute.
that.
Beth?
Well, you got to drop off the other one, right?
I'm going to keep the other one until I see you, until we can get together sometime, unless I mail
Okay.
it up.
You guys could vote to designate Dan as the signature until such time,
Yeah,
as well, formally. That way he can sign him for the duration until you're ready to switch
yeah.
it back.
There's a message from Bethany said that 310 and 311 are in the mailbox, just need to be signed.
Signed.
Yes, okay.
She's chatting with us.
She is.
Okay.
Hello, Beth.
I've got the archival paper for the February 25th one, but I think what you're saying, Andrea, is we need a motion to designate Dan as the signatory until the town hall is open again.
Yep, that you could do that and then you've formally done it in case anybody ever asks. It's in your minutes.
Yes.
So moved.
I second that.
Guys,
All
you have to
right.
say names, please.
All right, Tony, Jackie
Jack-
first.
I move we allow Dan to sign the minutes until town hall is open.
Tony Mateo, I second that motion.
Okay, now a roll call vote. Those in
Jack-
favor?
Jack's in favor.
Tony in favor.
Bernie Parada in favor.
Sue Kozinski in favor.
Dan Campbell in favor.
Lois in favor? All right, thank you. That takes care of that.
The last thing that you guys need to eventually talk about is COLA.
Okay, yes. The COLA for what we've done in the past is pretty much gone by what the Social
Oh, wait a
Security.
minute. Are you guys going to discuss that right now?
That's
Come up
usually
with
done
an idea
later.
right now?
Yeah. Oh, you
Okay.
think you should?
I'm leaving the
Okay.
room.
Well, is that the last thing you might want to, I don't have your agenda, so I'm at a loss.
Well, that's one of them.
I would do it last then.
Just one other thing then, Dan, before you leave.
Okay.
Were there any meetings that anybody attended? I don't think so. I don't think there's anything going on.
Just you and me and Dan had that meeting.
Yes,
And we just brought
Nathan.
that up, what we went through, so.
and we've reported on that. So CPA, Tony, there's nothing going on.
Well, we've got a meeting, a Zoom meeting actually, Thursday, and I was hoping to get some financial figures for that.
People
That
out there,
group.
yeah.
If I could, I don't know where you are on the accounting stuff for the CPA, CPC stuff.
Well, I could ask, she just got the closeout stuff from Deb, so, it may be time to shoot her an email and say, I know you got some stuff. Do you have anything on the Community Preservation Committee? I don't know how that works. That's an accounting treasurer thing, so I don't know.
I know that's why I'm trying to get some information. I've been
Right.
tasked with the idea of getting some numbers.
But the revenue should be still known, and that might have been identified
Well, it's
now.
there. I mean, I
Yeah.
know the revenue was there, or
Carrying forward the balances has been a problem, yes, but
yeah, just finding the balances. We do have, we've kind of settled on what's happening with the church steeple in town. So,
The last you told us about that was you're afraid it was going to come in at a much higher figure to do.
right. Well, it turns out that their insurance will cover just about all of it.
Oh,
So, it is not going to be anywhere near the figure that, was well over $100,000.
yeah.
So it will not be anywhere near that. But we may do some, if it covers all of it, we may do something like, while they're up there and have the lift, maybe doing some painting or cosmetic repairs on that steeple,
I see.
since it is on the,
You got to be careful about maintenance to buildings because that's usually a
well, it's
no-no.
not really maintenance, it's deterioration. It's not something that you would maintain.
Right.
It's more like a capital expense than anything else.
Okay. Okay, so Andrea, you're going to look into the figures he's looking for?
well, I can ask, I'm making notes here, I'll ask her about, I don't know where that sits, so let me ask when my meeting with Stacy, what kind of balances she's got now for the end of the year stuff, and that would include the Community Preservation Act.
Yeah, whatever the latest figures are, so we know what we're dealing with.
Okay.
Is she anywhere near giving us figures like we used to get all the accounts and the balances in them?
I was just sent a complete accounting for every town balance today. I can forward you all 144 pages of it.
Oh, gosh, no.
Well, it's every account, but I'll probably sift through it. You probably just want the general fund accounts for the most part. Let me see if I can break that down. There is some problems in a couple of them. Things were put in the wrong place. Like they put every town phone bill into selectmen's phone bills.
Oh,
So I have to manually go to those warrants and probably spend a day sorting that. They go to other accounts. So there's a couple of accounts where he was just putting stuff. So we're straightening those out. But in general, yes, those accounts, when I get a chance to look at them, pretty much is what I'm going to do tomorrow. So hopefully before your next meeting, when I send you the updated spreadsheet I have here, I'll send you some of those as well with any caveats or updates so that you get to see what we have this year, what we think we've expended this year.
okay, thanks. We used to get a monthly at the end of every month,
And you will again.
and it was
Right.
columns. I think it was the appropriation, the amount spent, and the balance.
Right now, she's sending me the full detail, so it's every expenditure in there, which is way
No.
more than you
Well,
want.
I'm getting mine as a
Yes,
town clerk. I get mine, so I'm
right. She's sending them to each individual department. She sends me all of them. But
okay.
what I want her to do is, if we make the corrections, is then just send the summaries.
Yeah.
This is what this account, the
Okay.
way you see it here on those reports. You don't need every charge to every.
No. Oh, no, not anything like that. Just the total. It was
So
about.
I'll talk to Erin about that. She's doing those, about setting up the report for the finance committee.
And that would be, Tony, that might give you what you were looking for.
That's what I was just about to ask. If it's
The
all the
special funds
accounts
are
for the
different.
town,
Yeah.
should it be there?
Well,
It
the
should be,
special funds are different because it was very easy for Stacy to walk in and set up July 1. You voted it.
Yeah.
It's the stuff prior to that, which is a carry forward, the special funds that
Okay,
we were
Okay, always do
clueless
your
because
special.
it got all messed up. So that's where I need to find out now what Deb has given Stacy and how close Stacy is to rolling those now into those roll forward funds and getting that straightened out. The accounts for fiscal 20 are pretty easy except for any errors in them because we
Yeah.
started with a July 1 clean slate
Yes. Yeah.
and we
Okay.
were able to do that. The roll forwards, the special articles, those are a little bit more tricky because we had to carry it over.
Okay,
But I
the
will-
only other thing I have is to talk about the COLA. And Dan, because you're involved, you want to leave, I guess.
Okay, I will be signing off. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
What I sent you doesn't have anything in it, and that's the last piece of this spreadsheet I have to learn, which is there's a way to put the COLAs in here and then see what they cost.
Okay,
That's my next goal. Now that
Okay.
I've figured out the spreadsheet. So then you can see on yours, it even says like 0, 2.83, 1.5. Those were options you had in there. I have to go now to the payroll tabs, which I did not include in your report, and figure
Right.
those out and figure out how to get those percentages in so that you
Yeah.
could even then see what whatever potential discussion you're having about them might actually cost.
okay. We've gone by what the federal government gives the Social Security beneficiaries in the way of an increase. That's what we've gone by, forever that I know of anyway. And that increase was 1.6 as of January 1st. Any thoughts on this for the rest of you? Can we afford any increase? How do we feel about it?
Well, we're way under the levy limit, so we can definitely afford it.
Yeah,
I'd say
true.
go with what we've been doing right along. If it's 1.6, let's go with 1.6.
I agree. 1.6 is a reasonable increase for a COLA.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay,
Sounds good.
Jack, you're okay with that then?
Sounds good to me.
All right. We need to vote on that.
I'll make the motion that we set the COLA for this year at 1.6%.
Second,
Tony Mateo.
Sue Kaczynski, second.
Okay, Tony has made the motion that the COLA be 1.6, and Sue has seconded it. A roll call vote. Tony,
Ivory Parada, vote yes.
okay,
Tony Mateo, yes.
Sue Kaczynski, yes.
Jack Spanbauer, yes.
and Lois is yes. All right, thank you very much. Is there
I will
anything
work on-
else?
I will work on computing that in so you can see it.
Okay, good, thank you. Anything else, Andrea, that you'd like us to take up this time?
No, I know I threw a lot at you with these spreadsheets, but I was hoping that, given some time that you would, get a chance to kind of explore them rather than me keep trying to create other kinds of spreadsheets and material for you. It just made sense.
I'll have
for
to
me.
go back and
So,
look at that
Yeah,
one.
spend some time. It shows you what the cherry sheet data has been put in there. It shows you how to compute the 2.5 levy, those kinds of things and how they feed into that budget summary page, which then is supposed to compute the estimated increase to the tax rate, which is always an estimate because a lot of our revenue is estimated. We estimate. The thing to keep in mind, the local estimated receipts, you had 514 last year. I put in 515 this year. I'm concerned about watching that number because I don't know how receipts are going to be affected. We
Okay.
haven't seen any effect right now. So I don't think we need to have a crisis in that respect. But considering from what I can see, last year when they actually set your tax rate, your estimated receipts came in at 600 plus. Staying with the lower 515 is probably conservative enough, but you could always move that number down lower if we're concerned.
Okay,
And those
Wait.
estimated receipts are like, for the most part, is excise tax, almost exclusively excise tax. And the reason to think about how that gets affected is I know during the recession that we previously had, the 2007, excise tax took a huge hit because people who feel economically insecure don't buy new cars. And guess what happens when they don't buy new cars? They keep their old cars. And the excise tax number falls precipitously. If you ever paid excise tax after the first couple of years on a new car, your excise tax bill goes way down. And that's money that the town doesn't get. So when people are buying newer cars and keeping newer cars on the road, that's a lot of our income in excise tax. So the
Not
next,
too much from building permits, is there?
no, I mean, I don't have a breakdown of the revenue. I can ask.
No,
and
that's
see.
all right.
Well, no, we should know that. Melissa should be able to give me a revenue because she does. She has to book it. She has to book
Okay.
each category.
All right.
Just to take a look at, because some of that is, some of that is transfer station fees, people buying bags, people buying stickers.
Yes. Yeah.
Those are, it's actually good to do an analysis of that. And Bob talked
Okay.
about having done some of that, so you can see how much he's earning to offset the cost of the transfer station.
Yeah,
So that kind of analysis isn't a bad thing to be looking at.
That's going right into the general fund, isn't it? Rather
Correct.
than
So that's one
the
of
revolving
those,
fund.
that's one of your local estimated receipts.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Okay.
transfer station stickers and bags, dog licenses, probably only a few $100s.
Yeah.
But
right.
mostly excise tax, and then other personal property tax, I think, is in there.
Yes.
Not your real estate tax, because that's your raise and
Yeah.
appropriate.
Yeah.
But all the other little fees and fines you pay, building, right, for building permits, for that all goes into estimated receipts, plus little things here and there that crop up. It's always
Sure.
interesting. There's
Okay.
always a few.
Anybody have any thoughts on state aid this year? Do you think we'll have any?
I've been
I'm
following
wondering-
it pretty closely. They have
Yeah.
not done their budget. We're pushing them pretty hard at the local level to do a
Yeah.
consensus budget so that they don't have to go through House does their budget, Senate does their budget, and then they fight about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'd like to see those numbers be more consensus and sooner. The only two things that really affect the towns, at least smaller towns, is your unrestricted general government aid, which is not a huge part of your budget. In fact, I have the governor's estimate in there right now.
Okay.
It doesn't really mean anything because they never go with the governor's number.
No.
The governor's number that's in there right now, your local estimated receipts plus all the other pieces of it,
Yeah.
it's like 488,000. So it's not the big chunk of your budget. I know that's not,
Yes.
you wouldn't sneeze at it, but it's not your big number. The biggest concern I have is that you have a school assessment. That school assessment, which they had to do before anybody knew this was going on, is predicated on some guesstimates on their part, like regional school transportation, cherry sheet reimbursement, all those things. I don't know how those are going to play out next year, because I'll tell you right now, the lottery took a nosedive. The state
Yes, definitely.
does not have online lottery. Maine and Pennsylvania went through the roof because they have online lottery.
Oh,
Everybody else went down because we don't.
Yeah.
I'll bet you in the next year or two, you're going to see Massachusetts with online lottery. That's my first prediction out of all this.
yeah.
So when they lose that money, a lot of that money goes towards education, the special ed pothole funds, all that. It'll be interesting to see if something happens to the school assessment.
Yes.
Not such that they change what they need, the funding of it.
Yes.
They could come back and reassess the towns if all of a sudden their funding takes a nosedive. That's
Yeah.
my biggest concern, because a bit of tinkering with that revenue and the formula, it's very volatile, and it could change the town's, right now it's like a $15,000 increase to you guys. That could change dramatically. if the
Okay.
funding
Yeah.
was-
I think it could affect the school more than it could affect the rest of the town.
Right, but it directly then comes back to you. If they say, oh, we're not changing our budget, we've done everything we can, and all of a sudden they're getting $100,000 less revenue, well, guess what? The 4 towns are going to do that, and half of it's, it's a formula, so it's not, you can't just say 50,000 of it's yours, but, that will change right now. There's no indication that's the way it's going to go, because the state isn't really talking about hard and fast budget numbers. We
No.
just know that they haven't done that yet, and they're not anticipating that they will have a budget for us by the end of the fiscal year, June 30th.
And the increased costs that they've got in connection with this virus are
Yes.
going to eat up money.
They're watching their rainy day fund dry
Yes.
up. The feds are giving them certain money under the CARE Act, but there's a question about how much of that. They're actually, one of the questions that they're waiting for on the guidance for the CARE Act is whether or not they can use some of that CARES money to cover Medicaid increases for medical. And can they use it to pay medical, the state's share of medical liability to hospitals where there's patients? They don't know the answer to that yet. Because that's money the state's going to have to cover. All those costs of people on Medicare and Medicaid and all that, the state will have to pick up those pieces.
The hospitals will be
for the
desperate
hospital.
for
And
money.
that's
Yeah.
huge right now.
Yeah.
So they don't know whether they can use the federal care money for that or whether there's going to be any additional money coming from the feds to pay for that. A lot of states are going to have that issue. So there's a lot of balls juggling. I listen to a lot of these conference calls.
Yes.
So I'm just trying to keep abreast of it so that we don't get blindsided.
Okay.
And that's really the best we can do at the moment.
Sure. The rest of you, anybody have any questions for Andrea?
I just have one question, Andrea. You got my message concerning the property owner on Main Street to communicate with them concerning the possibly location for the public safety building.
Yes.
I left Andrea and you a message, both of you,
Yes.
because
Yes.
you need a contact person.
Yes, I think I did. And then, yeah, and there's also the one, and I haven't followed up, where they were talking about land further up towards the border there with snow.
Gotcha. Okay.
I haven't followed up with that one yet either.
Well, I understand. I know you have enough on your plate.
No, it's sort of tamping down a bit, and I'm kind of reopening things now and getting back to the normal, trying to get projects back on track. But I did spend a lot of time trying to get these spreadsheets and stuff because I do think we need to get the budget piece
No, I understand. That's
up to date, up to snuff, so that you're really ready to go when you really need to make those changes. But yes, I feel like I've kind of got a handle on this spreadsheet now, after cussing at it for a few days. But I think I got it.
That.
Now we'll start all over again trying to get the wage increases and the COLA in there. And then
Yes,
I'll
yeah.
be screaming at it again, but I'll make it happen.
Well, I
Somebody
thought it was
took a
good.
class in Excel. This is all, I make it up as I go along. No, I don't. No, honestly, I don't.
Okay, anybody else, anything? Jack?
No.
Sue?
No,
Tony?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I brought a second that motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded that we adjourn. Roll call vote, please.
Sue
Tony,
Kuzinski.
aye.
Oh.
Tony, aye.
Sue, I.
Bernie, aye.
Jack, aye.
Lois says aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.